Hey, and welcome to the Joie Miller podcast. I'm Joey, and today we are going to talk about parenting, giving our kids roots and wings. Parenting is a weird dance where you are establishing control and protection and all of those things that keep them in your nest. And then something happens, and the day comes when they grow, and it's time to push them out. So we have to give them roots and wings. So we're going to talk about navigating parenting and some things that you can do to structure your life so that you make sure that you are doing both of these things. So we're creating children who are not just clingy to us, but they are responsible adults one day. That's the goal. And so we're going to take a look here at roots and wings, raising children you can release. And so let's talk about that tension for a minute of creating roots and wings in their lives. It seems like that they're two conflicting things that we're trying to do. And I was reminded years ago that the goal of parenting is to release. The end goal of parenting is to release this child that is a gift from God into the world. And it's so important to remember that God has given you, if you're a parent, your children as a gift to steward for him, that your child has a God-given purpose and potential and a plan for their lives that goes beyond just being your child. I mean, that's part of it, but they have a purpose that we're called as parents to steward them into, so that one day we release them to go and fly and do what they were meant to do for God. And so we want to give them roots so that they have an understanding of who they are, where they come from, what their family culture is, and yet we want to be able to give them wings so that they can go out and accomplish the purpose that God has for them in life. And we have 5 kids, if you don't know about us, through or 10 years apart. So our oldest is now married and he has a little girl, and our second is married. So we have 3 sons and 2 daughters. Our older 2 sons have left the nest, and they're leading their own homes now. And then we have a college-age daughter, and then we have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. And so there's a wide variety of ages and stages that we have lived through. And so the most recent is, of course, the release was a new element, a new season for me as a mom. And I learned so many lessons in that season. And so I want to talk about navigating those years of change. Maybe you're in a stage where your kids are just little and they do what you tell them to do for the most part, and they follow you around. I used to take my kids places, and when I would run into people, they were like, "You look like a mama duck," and you're just with like 5 little ducklings following you. And those were such amazing years of formation. And I want to lean into the conversation a little bit of what that looks like in those years of giving them roots and how to structure our lives and rhythms around that to maximize that season of our lives. I never wanted to look back on my life and have regret or feel like I missed a season. I never wanted to watch family videos and be heartbroken because I didn't steward that season correctly. And so there's a way that we can steward that season well. And then there's the season that when we release, we can steward that well too, so that we're not heartbroken and living in the past and my purpose is over, and we go into melodramatic motherhood where we just cry all the time. I want to challenge you today that whatever season of parenting that you're in, it is your best season. That you're going to embrace this new season with grace. That you have a mentality and a declaration that this is my best season yet. Because with God, things only get better and better. And things might be different, but different doesn't mean worse. And so, when they're little, you're creating this root system that actually will bring them back to you when you release them. And so, number 1, if you're taking notes, it's this: creating a security at home will put the right roots in place. When you're creating security at home, it puts the right roots in place, creating an environment and an atmosphere in your home that your kids feel secure, that your kids feel like they can be themselves. This is so important to allow our kids the space to feel supported with us without us always trying to correct or change them. We have 5 kids with 5 different personalities. And it wasn't until later in my parenting years when my second son told me, he was like, "Why did you always correct me or clump me in with my older brother whenever they were getting in trouble?" I just kind of dealt with them as like a duo. And we were laughing about it. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, like, I really did just like kind of clump them together the way I parented them, the way I disciplined them. And it wasn't until later in life I realized how very different their personalities are, how they respond to correction. Completely different. And I thought about that. And I thought, as parents, we have to be so careful to steward our children in the personality that God has given them, not to try to change them, but create an atmosphere that is safe for them to thrive and be themselves, to be goofy. My daughter is third born, and she is completely different than me. She is just like, we're polar opposites in some way, yet we're like in other ways. But instead of me trying to conform her to my image, right, I celebrate her. I give her a safe space to be who God has created her to be. And we do this within our home by cultivating atmospheres of approval, in the sense of whoever God created you to be, I love you for that person. Not I don't mark you by your failures. I mark you by your God-given potential. When I walk in bed and tuck them in at bed at night, I'm not like, oh, what a screw up. I'm like, this child is uniquely made. They are brilliant. They are amazing. And giving them that space to feel safe. Another way that we make our kids feel safe in the environment that we're bringing them up in is to apologize, to have an apologetic culture where we're quick to own our stuff. One of the rules in our house is like, it's not whatever mom and dad say, go without question. It's, if we made a mistake, we will have the conversation with you. It's like, let's sit down and let's talk about this. You know what you did was wrong, but how I responded wasn't right either. And so having that transparency, even when they're little, to understand that we live in a home and a culture where if you make a mistake, you can apologize and own up to it, and we're quick to forgive. And so creating these atmospheres help them to feel safe and be confident in who they are and the tribe that you're raising them in, and their roots are going down deep. And then creating, those moments with them. Having fun is part of our family culture in root establishment. Is we have fun together. We create memories, and I do this intentionally, and I always have. But as they've gotten older, I have intentional rhythms of family time that we create around our calendars, so that we're making these moments so that they're feeling secure in being around their family. And so we'll do fun things seasonally. As they get older, things change, but when they were little, they were traditions that we always did. And as they've gotten older, they'll revisit those traditions. One of our traditions is that we always, on their birthday, I would always put balloons all over their floor of their bedroom. And they would wake up in the morning, and there would be balloons all over their floor. And my oldest son, when he got married, he actually did that for his wife. And that's just a way that tradition was embedded in who he was. We're people who celebrate life. We celebrate each other. We love each other. We make the other people feel seen. It's just a moment where we are creating a root system in them to know who they are. Back in the ancient days, the Jewish culture, they would actually sit around the table. They would have family meals together. And in those meals, they would talk about the things of God. They would talk about who they are as a family, the things that they stand for, the things that God has called them to do. And so when we're establishing that root system, it's good to have those conversations in those moments where we're around the table, relaxing and talking about who we are as a family, our history, our faith, all of those things. And then, as we're out doing something fun together too, that's a part of who we are. So making sure that you're creating moments. You're not just getting through a season where your kids are in your home, where you're rearing them up. You're actually being intentional about it to establish the right culture, the right root system in them. Culture is everything when it comes to family. There is new merch waiting for you at the Joie Miller website. Go to joiemiller.co. You can find all of your planner accessories that will encourage you as you're getting organized. Check it out today. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is older, he will not flee from it. And so when you understand that there is a training and a rearing process to be intentional about. So you're injecting culture into your kids. You're injecting values into your kids. You're injecting what's important. So if you tell them to read their Bible every day, yet you're not reading your Bible, you're not reading it together, you're speaking one value, but you're living another. And there's something about kids that they will do what you do, not what you say. And so being very intentional to say, what are the roots that I want my children to have? What are the values? Take some time and write them down. What are your family values that you operate by? What is your family culture? Not what you wish it were. What is it actually? What does your home feel like? What is the atmosphere of your household? Is it an atmosphere where everyone's afraid to make mistakes? Is it an atmosphere where your home looks more like a museum than a house? I can be guilty of that. I like everything in order. And I had to check myself. I had to say, I want my kids to feel at home here. I want them to be able to relax here more than anything else. I don't want them to feel like they're visiting somewhere when they come into my house. I want it to be a safe place that even after they leave, even after they leave the nest, that they want to come home because there's a comforting feeling around that. And that takes intentional living, that takes intentional culture creating. And so take a note of that. What does my home feel like? What is the culture of our house? What are the values that I'm injecting into our children? And then make sure that you're creating rhythms and routines and things around that. So number 2 is the wing element, letting them go and letting them grow. We spend all of our lives nurturing these children, creating a culture, and then one day, moms, it's time to release them. And if you're not careful, you could look at this as a finish line of parenting, but really your kids need you in every season. They need you in a different way in every season. And so instead of maybe being a hovering mother, their whole life, you're going to transition into a space where you let them go. You become more of a coach in their life. You become an ear for them to rant or whatever that is, to give them advice that is sound. And so there's something beautiful about letting them fly. And it's equally hard and rewarding at the same time, that you have actually seen this beautiful person that they have become. And you have to steward this season very carefully, because if you do it wrong, you can start to become controlling, you can start to become manipulating, you can start to try to impose your will upon their life. 5 kids, 5 different paths. They're all going to be different. It's going to look different. And guess what? I'm going to have opinions about what they should and shouldn't do. And trust me, I'm praying, I'm vested. Moms, if anything, you've been praying for this child since they were in your womb or even before. And so we feel like we have a say, and we do have a say, but you have to watch that say doesn't overtake what God actually wants for their lives, and you become controlling and manipulating about what you want for their lives versus what even maybe God's will is for their life. I love this quote, and it's this, the will of God is the safest place that your child can be. If your child is in God's will, they are in the safest place. And God's will is protection, provision, peace, and all of those things. And so, asking yourself today, am I okay with releasing my child into God's will and God's plan for their life, or am I trying to impose my will into their life? And sometimes that means letting go, and grieving maybe what you thought this season of your life would look like. Grieving. There's been moments where I have had to let go and grieve what I thought a season with my children would look like, and allowing God to have that season and to bring beauty even out of seasons that felt like it was an ash season, like, this isn't anything like I thought it would be. The expectations of this season aren't what I thought they would be, and allowing God to redefine that. And so being aware of that as a mom, as you're letting your child fly into what God has for them, or you're not going to be controlling, you're not going to be manipulating, you're not going to let fear have the final say. Are you parenting with fear? When it's time to release your kids, are you afraid of letting them go? Or do you say, God, I have peace and trust that you are in that you are in this next season, that it looks different, but it's still a good season, and continuing to invest in that next season. When your kids are little, you're investing 24/7. You're doing all the things. need to continue to invest even into their adulthood. You need to invest into making an effort to have phone conversations, to meet up and have coffee. That's our responsibility as the parent to be the initiator of those things, to continue to sow into those relationships and say, I'm going to have a mindset that this season is a great season, that I haven't crossed a parenting finish line. It just has changed in what it looks like, and I'm going to change with it. And understanding that as we're learning to create a culture where the kids grow and they become the best version of themselves, and then we release them into the world, that it's a beautiful mix of God's plan for our life. And so as we steward our children, it's saying, God, this child isn't mine. This child is yours. The plans, the purposes that you have for their life, it's yours. They're not mine to control. Yes, I played a part in it, but I'm not going to hold on to it in fear. I'm not going to manipulate. I'm going to actually live this season of my life as I'm releasing in peace. And as you do that, you will see God do amazing things. You will enjoy every season. Give yourself permission, moms, to enjoy the season that you're in, knowing that the seasons will change and seasons will look different, but it all gets better with God. Well, I hope this was an encouraging short word with you today on Roots and Wings, mothering through every season. If your kids are at home, enjoy it. It changes. There's different challenges that come as they're older. If your kids are older, enjoy that season too, knowing that the best is ahead. And I'll talk to you soon on the Joie Miller podcast.